Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number 1 in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Yes, everybody. Oh yeah. All right, big week this week. We've got the Battle of the Bits released the Atari Trilogy album. We've got a new track from the Motion Epic that is awesome that I can't wait to go over. We got some stuff regarding the Chiptunes Equals Win, the rules. I found the rules for their competition for the new volume. So lots of stuff going on this week, and we also got some van casts. So yeah, I'm kind of excited. Let's start things off with the Motion Epic. This is this track is a little bit on the long side at 4 minutes. I don't like to go anything too far past the 3.5 minute mark. But this guy has been my daughter's absolute favorite, and I love this guy as well. I got his album off of Business Casual, which was called Midnight. They released that in cassette, so I managed to pick up a copy of that. And my daughter and I listen to it all the time. So this guy gets played quite a lot in my house. So this is like the teaser for the new album, and I think it's pretty dope. So stick around. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Remember the night you said goodbye. Feeling is right as we're pulling in time.
Look, I know this mentality of music that should always be free. I know that's kind of hard to shake. But this is an album that I really hope when it comes out it's priced reasonably, because whatever it costs, I'm throwing my money down, because that is awesome. Excuse me, the slurping, I know. Alright, so before we go into the Vancast, I want to talk a little bit about Chiptunes Equals Win. So I made a video kind of talking about how I was interested in getting involved in the latest Chiptunes Equals Win. It's a chiptune competition. And they posted the rules, and I read them out, and I learned a few things about how this is done. So you might remember I posted, I put out a new album called Laguna Seca. It's a new Green Leo album. Green Leo is the moniker that I use when I make chiptune albums. So I just put this album out, and it kind of got me on fire making music again. So they only accept one entry per person. All right. So my initial idea was, I for some reason was under the impression that it's common for there to be a couple of songs per person, but I think I might have that wrong. I think that I'm thinking more of Battle of the Bits. I think there's a couple of people. There's a couple of people who are repeat offenders, but so I can't just like put up a song from the previous album and then get to work doing other stuff to see if I can match it. That plan is out. Only one song per person. Second of all, they have an exclusivity clause. So because that album has been released already, I can't submit any of those tracks. Which is, it is what it is. It makes it a little bit harder for me to follow the saga of getting on Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 8, here on the air. Because if I were to hey, I got some new tracks I'm working on, let's play them and see what you guys think. I can't do that. They want me to keep the songs under wraps. And once Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 8 comes out, if I'm on it, they want exclusivity for 6 months. So what's going to happen is I'm making chiptunes now. I'll make my submission, whatever the best one is, and then I have to wait. All right? While I'm waiting, I'm going to be building an album. Okay? And then I have a release date. 6 months from the new Chiptunes Equals Win. That's the day the next, the corresponding album will drop. Because the exclusivity clause will be lifted, and then my one winner track that I think is my best track, I'll be able to release an album based around it. So that's kind of where I'm at with Chiptunes Equals Win Volume 8. I have 3 Famitracker tunes that I'm working on that feel like they're super hot. But I'm listening to them, and the best Famitracker song I have, it's not going to cut it. Because I don't have as much control as I need over the drum kit, and I don't have as much control as I need over the bass. So there's no way I can make a song with Famitracker and have it sound full enough. I just won't be able to compete. I have some pretty good songs that I'm working on, and I'm going to finish them out and probably release an EP coming up soon. But that's been fun. As a matter of fact, later on in the show, I think I'll produce a couple of demo waves, and I'm not submitting them. I might as well play them so we can hear what they sound like. And we'll get into that and have some fun. In the meantime, we are 9 minutes in already, and I haven't been to the van yet. So let's turn back the clock, everybody. This is golly, I don't know when the first one was recorded, but you know how this works. We're going to the van. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio.
Morning, everybody. It's Monday morning. It's 6:16, and I'm getting ready to peel out of the driveway and head off to work. It is 28 degrees outside. Spring is here, I guess. Great big question mark on that one, boys and girls. Technically it's here, but shouldn't feel like it right now. Alright, off we go. What a weekend it's been. By the time you're hearing this, the Tiger Score should be out. Issue 3 of the Tiger Score. The single-page video game magazine that you can print and play and keep next to your retro consoles to keep score. This month is going to be the Alien Invasion special. So, I'm psyched about that. Here, hang on a second. Alien Invasion, we're going to get the aliens. The aliens are going to move left to right, and each time they hit the side, they're going to drop down and get a little closer. So that should be a good time. Desm101 hit me up on Twitter with a score for Space Invaders for the Atari 2600, which is really the focus. It's really just the Space Invaders issue, I guess. with other games I can think of that fit in similarly to the theme. But it's as simple as Space Invaders is an amazing game, even after all these years. And I just wanted to spend some time playing it and compare notes with my friends. And thus we have issue 3 of the Tiger Score. Issue 3 of 5. So after this, we've got 2 more coming down the pipeline. And then it's going to be finito for that series. Okay, I'm going to touch on this briefly, but look, I know journalists say a lot of dumb things, and every time a journalist says something profoundly dumb, it usually makes the rounds, and everybody kind of talks about it. What's the game that they talked about on Forbes? It's like Cienco, something like that. Some sort of brand new game, and I usually don't pay attention to the new games. But there was an article on Forbes that was like, this game needs to respect its users and produce an easy mode. Because nobody knows video games quite like Forbes magazine, right? That's a legendary video games magazine. Come on, respect its users. Whoever wrote that article had to be like less than 21 years old. You think Ninja Gaiden respected its users? No! The creators of Ninja Gaiden hated the people who would play Ninja Gaiden, and they were going to make you suffer for doing it. And that's one of the reasons we remember that game. Because at least when it made you suffer, it was by design, and not just because the game was poorly made. You know, that's a different type of suffering. Alright, let's see what we got here. Sometimes I think these people say dumb things just because they get the clicks from everybody being upset about how dumb they are. In fact, in this case, I'm sure that's what's going on. Alright, I'm at the grocery store for my Monday run. Be back shortly. There we go. Alright, I'm back now. You know, it's cold outside, but there's no wind at all, for one thing. And for another, the air just feels good. And the sky is really clear. It kind of feels like vacation. It's really nice. So I'm hoping sometime this afternoon it'll clear up and I can go for a run tonight. That'd be good. Video games. Dead by Daylight. I played more of it last night. I talk about this game every week. Not going to talk about it too long. But I played against the new killer, the Plague. And let me tell you, I love Dead by Daylight. It's a great game. It's a great game to get into now if you've never played it before. But it certainly has some balance issues, and this new killer definitely has some balance issues. The idea is she throws up on people, and you're running from the killer, and she's chasing you, and typically the killer runs a little bit faster than you do. So if you want to get away, you got to use tricks to do it. You got to be able to jump through windows. You got to drop down pallets. But she can close that gap by throwing up projectile vomit and get it on you. And then you get sick. And then once you get sick, you're down and out before too long. It didn't go very well. But, you know, I'm sure once she's been around a little while longer, then I'll be able to come up with strategies to mitigate her new powers. The same thing happened with the Legion. When the Legion came out, this one killer that like wears a mask and carries a knife, she seemed really overpowered. But then when she'd been around for, you know, a month or 2 months, then I started to figure it out, and it was fine. So, hey, a little new challenge, keeping the game fresh. It's good times. Still a good game to get into. I wondered though, when it gets a serious competitor, it probably won't stay around much longer. Like, if Friday the 13th didn't crumble in court, and it was able to maintain an update schedule, I think Friday the 13th would have beat the pants off of Dead by Daylight. Hang on a second, it's drive time. But you know, that's just how it goes. Alright, bear with me. Bear with me. So what else did I play? I played a little Dead by Daylight. You know, I had planned to get together with Hemrock and with Sendu to play some Terraria this weekend, Saturday night. And I was even playing games Saturday night, but I had kind of forgotten about that until it was too late. I was up and I was playing games, and then when I was all done for the night, I was like, well, I better check my email. Stopped in and checked my email, and there were emails from Sendu. Hey man, we doing this thing? Oh, jeez. I'm such a terrible person. So my apologies, Sendu. I did enjoy Terraria when we played it the other night. It's a good game. My kids still like to do LAN parties of Terraria every weekend. We did that for a few hours this weekend. Yeah, so that's a game that gets a lot of time in my house. It is the number 2 most played Steam game in my collection, next to Gary's Mod. Gary's Mod was able to acquire 570 hours while I was in college. And I think Terraria has got like 370, maybe 380 now, I don't know. So it's a distant second, but it's getting played a lot still. So it could catch up to it one of these days. You never know. Let's see. I also spent some time last night. I was lying in bed. My wife was watching Law and Order. I fired up the Nintendo DS. Excuse me. I have to play Duel Masters. I'm trying to get good at Duel Masters and get it worked out again. So I can play with my buds in town. Hemrock plays Duel Masters, and I'd like to go head to head with him the next time he shows up in town. So I was like, all right, we're gonna give this game another shot. I'm gonna get it figured out. I kind of got the basic idea of it, but I hadn't figured out how to really deal with the workflow of the card game or get good at it. So I put in probably about 4 consecutive losses last night. And then at the end, I won once. And I decided to call it a night on that. One of the problems I'm noticing is that I think there's some fundamental issues with the starting deck. And I think the only way to acquire cards to fix it is by battling with the broken starter deck. So what I'm hoping is I'll be able to acquire more cards, edit the deck, and then get over this initial hump of fixing the starter deck. But that's Duel Masters. That is a very random GBA game that you can play at a very inexpensive price, which was pretty cool. And last night when I dug that out, I rediscovered the magic of my portable games box. This is something I got to make a video of. I got this box that I keep all my like Game Boy stuff in from all the generations, like GBA, original Game Boy. It's all in this one box, and it's a great big shoebox. It kind of it's got a lot of stuff in it. I remember being a kid in I guess in high school, probably in like my freshman year, and I had a Game Boy, like a DMG, the brick Game Boy, and in my nightstand had a little drawer, and in the drawer was like my stack of Game Boy games, and at the time it seemed like a big stack. It's probably like 7 of those gray cartridges. I couldn't tell you every game I had, but among them was Zelda, Link's Awakening, and then I had Mario Land 2. I think those were like the keystone games.
And I had Kirby, but I loaned it to one of my friends in exchange for something terrible, and then he was like, nope, not giving it back. So at that time, I looked at my little stack, and I was like, man, this is a lot of Game Boy games. Now, oh my gosh, I look at this box, and it's like, if, 16-year-old version of me could have this box, he would go ballistic. It's a guy who would disappear for weeks at a time. We'd never see him again. Good times. All right. So that said, if I didn't have to do what I'm doing now, I'm driving to the office right now. The sun's starting to come up. But if I didn't have to do this, if I was able to just turn around and go back to the studio, fire up the kettle, get some hot tea, sit down in my chair and play some games, what would I be playing? And oftentimes lately, my answer really revolves around the music I'd be listening to while doing it. I want to play something that I can play, while I listen to tapes or something like that. And I think this morning's probably no different. I could go for another round or two of Duel Masters. Which, by the way, as it turns out, great game to play while I'm going through my tape collection. Yeah, so you know what? Duel Masters would probably be it. I'd probably listen to Fugazi. I don't have any Fugazi tapes. I'd have to dig into my CDs, but put on Fugazi CDs from 15, 20 years ago, however long it's been, and play Duel Masters in my chair under a blanket. That's what I would do. But instead, I'm charging headfirst into Monday, and when I get to the office, I'm going to knock it out. And with that, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio as I merge onto the highway for safety. I'll see ya. Back again in the studio. Yes, merging onto the highway while talking into a phone. I see people do it all the time, but I'm not willing to try it myself. Okay, before I forget, huge thanks to the patrons, the Patreon subscribers. They're keeping the show alive. They're Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka. Thank you guys so much. Also, thanks for letting me wait until Sunday to get the show done this week. I was really busy with my family, and it'll go up tonight, so you guys will get it early. The Patreon subscribers get it early every week. All right. So that said, we were going to talk about the Atari Trilogy. Why it's called the Atari Trilogy, I don't know. So this is the Battle of the Bits release that just came out, and I looked into the Battle of the Bits a little bit. And the thing that sets Battle of the Bits apart from Chiptunes Equals Win is with Chiptunes Equals Win, they have their competition, and they exclusivity, only one, and then they have a deadline, and that's pretty much it. The only other rules are make it awesome. Whereas Battle of the Bits, they have, all right, well, this is going to be the Famitracker battle. You got to submit a Famitracker track. This is going to be some other kind of battle. It has to be format specific, which is the reason why when you listen to the releases over on Battle of the Bits, you get a much chippier sound, right? If it's Chiptunes Equals Win, I can take a Famitracker track, I can load it into a DAW, digital audio workstation, and I can put a bass line over top of that, thus breaking free from the Famicom limitations. There we go. I got the words out. All right, so that said, I'm not sure exactly what the format was for this one. I want to say one of the Atari computers, because when it comes to Atari, I know the 2600. That's what I know. And this sounds more like, you know what? We're just going to play a song off of it. You can tell me what you think. This is going to be the lead-off track. Give me a second here to look it up. Bear with me. Oh, golly, these hard to pronounce names. Tobakomi, and the track is Serious. It's another a bit of a long one. It's 4 minutes and 22 seconds. You know what? We're going to go with it. I think it's a good track. I was listening to it earlier today while I was waiting for the grill to get fired up. Just hanging around with my daughter. Take a listen. Tell me what you think. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Yes, friends. Yes, friends. Reach me with that hand. Reach me with that hand. You cannot. All right. Let's do this. I do have another Vancast to play for you. I've got two projects that I'm working on right now, musically. I've got a little chiptune EP made entirely in Famitracker that's going to be super hot. And then I have like an experimental EP that I did with all my hardware. I used the Monotron, the Monotron Duo, which you can hear. I have that sitting on my desk right here, and I have the Korg Volca keys, and I have what is this? What is this thing? The Pocket Operator Arcade. Hear that? Boop 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 boop. So I chained all that together, and I made what I could. And I'm listening to this thing that I've created, and I'm debating on whether or not I should release it. Because I know I can do better, but it's like the tracks were made as part of a learning process. And I came to the conclusion that I just want to get stuff out there and get feedback. And I don't want to be the kind of person who waits for the perfect song. Because if Keith Morris waited for the perfect song, we wouldn't have any Circle Jerks, we wouldn't have any Black Flag, we wouldn't have any Off, none of that stuff. I just want to make what I can make and get it out there. So I've got this little hardware EP. I don't know what it's called. That's going to drop probably next week. And then I'll have a little 4-song Famitracker thing after that. So let's take a listen to the best I've come up with Famitracker. I think the running time is 1 minute right now. All right, this song doesn't have a name. I typically give these things goofy names, goofy working titles that get weeded out, but that's a habit I'm trying to get out of. One of the songs on Laguna Seca was originally called Paul Blart Loses His Job. And then, it almost made it onto the album that way. It hurt for me to change the name. So we'll see. All right. So this is called Trying to Make Something New, Volume 2. Let's take a listen. I'm realizing now after cutting that demo that it ends quite abruptly, but if it loops back to the beginning, it sounds better. I think it's got some potential. I'm finding that it's not very catchy because there's no real hook. It's just a lot of soloing off of a basic chord progression. But I'm pretty pleased with it. I don't know. Tell me what you think. That's what I think has the most work into it. I've got a couple of loops that are kind of the opposite, that just have, how should I put it? That just kind of have a basic chord progression, and they need some sort of lead to carry it through. So let's try the much shorter sister song to that one. This is just called Let's Slow Jam. By itself, that's not enough to carry a song, but it's so close. I feel like I'm missing a cable for me to hook my Monotron up to the the line input of the PC, and then I can kind of work with that with my hardware over it. But it's so close. So it's just a good little. I could almost play my guitar over it, just do a little guitar lead, and I think that'd be good enough. But that's what I'm working on right now. Those, and I have one other one I don't quite care to dig out just yet. And then those three And then I also had a song called Washu Does the Dishes that was a bonus track on an album I made. One of the first 3 albums, it was a bonus track. You only got it if you downloaded it. That's probably going to make it on as like a regular track, just so that the Bandcamp streaming-only type people will have a chance to hear it. So there you go. So that's 4 tracks in the oven on what's shaping up to be a pretty good sounding album, at least by my standards. There's something empty about the Famitracker sound, though. That, by the way, both of those tracks were just done in straight Famitracker. They have the expansion module. Which one is it called? Nintendo MMC5. The idea is typically with Nintendo, you get two square channels that you can work with, and then you get a triangle channel for bass and you get a noise channel for drums. The expansion gives you 2 additional square channels. That's what it does. So you get 4. Both of those tracks use this expansion. So yes, it would have to be a very specific cartridge, but you could use those tracks in a ROM and then burn it to a cartridge, play it on an actual Nintendo. I kind of always like that about working with Famitracker. But the more I try and like enter the realm of music consumption, I'm finding that is not much of a priority to anyone else. So we'll see how that goes. But all right, that's enough jibber jabber about music and what's going down. This is a podcast about video games and making it through the day. That's what we're about right now. So we're gonna go back to the van one more time. I've only got 2 this week. That's it. Time for the Vancast. I'll see you guys there. Morning, everybody. It's Friday morning. It's time for the Vancast. It is 6:16. It's 49 degrees out and raining. Like it rained last night, and now it's wet. You know, I typically get up and make arrangements so that I have an hour to play games and whatnot before I leave for work. But I slept in today, so I jumped right out of bed. Oh yeah, it's rainy, look at that. And I got all set, and now here I am. It's been a while since I've had to do this. Go from like being in bed to in the car on the way to work in like less than 10 minutes. But you know what? Sometimes it happens. Oh, so off we go. Woo! Dead by Daylight released a new survivor. And it's Ash from Evil Dead. Just the other day I was playing with my buddy from work and Darabka. And Sean was saying, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if we had Ash from gosh, I can't think of the movie now. Evil Dead, yeah. Wouldn't it be great if we had Ash from Evil Dead? That wouldn't work, though. They'd never do anything that awesome. Lo and behold, the very same week, there he is. They did a good job with him, too. We've got Laurie Strode has been around forever as a playable character from the Halloween movies, and she looks terrible. Like they couldn't work it out so they could get Jamie Lee Curtis's likeness. So it's just like it'd be like if they made a Halloween movie and somebody else played Laurie Strode. It was the same character, but it's played by somebody else. That's what it's like. So they did a much better job with Ash from Evil Dead. A little disappointed that there's no, that it was just him and there was no killer that came with him. But that's okay. I'll take the, I'll take the bone, you know? So I played some Dead by Daylight yesterday, which was pretty cool. Not a ton, but a little bit.
I actually sat down with Friday the 13th yesterday for the first time in a long time. I wanted to see how playable it still was. Friday the 13th, if you recall, all the development was halted on that game because of court battles. The game is still playable, but they can't work on it anymore. So, yeah, there's still people playing it. Not a lot, which is very sad, but there was still people playing. It was harder to get in a group with people who spoke English. See, Friday the 13th's got a couple of things that Dead by Daylight really needs. Number one, it has proximity voice chat, which is something I still believe in. I feel like these games that don't have proximity voice chat, I feel like that's because like they're afraid to let people talk to each other because we might say dirty words or something. It's like, why? Just let us. Don't be afraid. Friday the 13th still has that. So it's cool to be able to you know, hear people talking, and then just as Jason makes the kill, then they go silent. I think that's super awesome. Alright, hang on. Let's see. So I played some Friday the 13th. So that's one thing it has better than Dead by Daylight. And the other thing is the models. The models, like, oh my gosh. Everything about that game looks better than Dead by Daylight. The graphics are just better. They just are. So it was cool to be back in that sort of environment again. I appreciated that. But I could only hang in there for a while. It's the killer is much less forgiving in Friday the 13th. If you're hiding in a closet in Dead by Daylight and a killer finds you, he's going to pull you out and then put you on a hook. And then that's one of potentially 3 hooks you get before you're dead. If you're hiding under a bed in Friday the 13th and Jason finds you, then it's game over. He puts a machete right through you and you're done. I had kind of forgotten how much more brutal Jason was. Yeah, you get to fight back in Friday the 13th, provided you can find a bat or a wrench or something. But if Jason gets a hold of you and you haven't found the right item, that's all she wrote. Alright, hang on a second. What else did I play yesterday? I feel like that was the big one. There was I look around on a page. I don't even know what it's called. Steam Baru or something like that. That it's a gallery of custom Steam icons, so you can replace those thumbnails for Steam games in your Steam library. And I go through there and flip around every once in a while. Just to see some of the alternate icons for popular games. And sometimes I come across like a game I've never heard of. And there was, I think it was called like Open RU or Open Assault or something like that. But there was what looked like an open source version of Command and Conquer. And maybe it was Open TU, that would make more sense. I don't know. I used to love Command and Conquer. It's a great series. And I feel like Command and Conquer sort of unfairly died. I guess it was not just Command and Conquer, but really the whole popularity of the RTS genre. But I caught wind of a freeware version of Command and Conquer that I would like to check out and report back to you guys to see how it went. And I'll let you know what I come up with. In the meantime, I'm going to start wrapping up here. But I always like to end these with, what would I be playing if I were back? the studio where I have my chair and my blanket and my computer and my things. I kind of want to see this open source version of Command & Conquer. That'd be nice. Barring that, it might be nice to go over to Origin and load up the old Command & Conquer franchise pack. I bought every Command & Conquer game there was for $5 over on Origin when they were on sale one day. And whenever I go back to play it, I'm always playing... excuse me. I'm always playing that very first game. It's the only one I really go back to. I don't think it's the best game in the series. It's just the one I play over and over again. It has the hokiest full motion video sequences, which I love. But that's my choice. That'd probably be what I'd end up playing. And with that, boys and girls, I'm gonna shoot you back to the studio. I gotta focus on my driving because I'm barely holding on here. See you there.
Back again. And you know what? I apologize. I know I was dead tired recording that, and I probably yawned way too much. There's just some things you shouldn't do on the air, and it's like one of them is be inches away from sleep. But if it makes you feel any better, recording that helped me stay awake at the wheel. You know, so let's talk about video games for safety then, right? So this is the fail bag. We're a little over 45 minutes in. The best place to reach me is through YouTube. If you know me personally, you can shoot me an email. Just let me know. Be clear about what I am and am not allowed to read on the air. All right? So let's go back to last week. There's 3 comments, and then we got a bunch of comments like on other stuff like from previous weeks. So we'll start with last week. Desmond101 writes, I used to really enjoy the Cool Borders games, but I don't think I've played one since back in the 90s. I was into those extreme sports games also. Pretty fun times. I think my favorite of them was a Sega arcade game called Top Skater. Holy crap, that was a fun game. Shame they never ported it. Desmond, my man. Top Skater, I've never heard of it, but you know what? We're going to look it up right now. For Sega Genesis, the only Sega Genesis extreme sports game I'm familiar with is Skitchin. Skitchin was a game that graphically looked a lot like Tool Extreme or ESPN Extreme Sports games for the PS1, and it was great. You would rollerblade, and you would hold onto the back of cars, and they would like pop their trunk to try and knock you off, and you would pick up pipes and smash each other. It played really bad, I'm not going to lie. It wasn't great in how it played, but it was fun. It was fun and very 90s. All right, so we're going to take a look at Top Skater. Sega. All right, man. Let's see what we got. This looks 3D to me. What was this for? Did you say it was Sega arcade game? Okay. I do know this one. This was the one that had the big plastic skateboard, right? Yeah, I can see pictures of it now. This one had a big plastic skateboard, and then around it was a big metal bar. And you would hold on to the bar, and you'd kind of like groove left and right on the skateboard, and you would control it that way. I don't think I ever actually played this game, but I do remember seeing it quite often. I think what kept me from playing it was that it was like $1 to play. Or I don't remember exactly how much it was. But there was something else in the same area that was cheaper that I wanted to play. It's funny, I can see it. I can see that game now in my head. I can remember where I saw it, sort of. But like at the same time, I don't remember where that was. I want to say it wasn't an arcade in my hometown, because I probably would have remembered it better. I don't know. I must have gone on vacation and saw one somewhere. But yeah. That's Top Skater. Thanks for that little trip down memory lane. Whew, I'd forgotten about that game. Alright, Desmond, my man. Always good to hear from you. Let's go back to episode 279. We also got one from Mecha Menace, who writes, what reason did the traffic ticket specify? Did you hold your phone when you record a Vancast? If so, why not use some sort of sweet Patreon money to buy a mount? I did that already, actually. I need you to be safe in order to provide more hours of entertainment. Thanks, I appreciate that. I remember in those days throwing the ball up in the air. You would make a game out of it. First it would be, can I catch it? Then it would be, can I hit the branch or knock that thing out of the tree? You would improvise. The sun would hit you just to the right angle through the window in front of the TV as you played Sonic or Earthworm Jim for the 50th time that made you sick with boredom. You would improvise. Can I beat this level without taking a hit? You would explore every nook of the Phantasy Star 4 map or Sonic level. Maybe you just experimented with the odd Game Genie codes or fabricated some of your own. I'm not anti-tech. I just remember having to come up with something to do. Most of my boredom now comes from crushing depression and responsibility. He's talking about last week when I said, does anyone get bored anymore? And yeah, man, it's a different world. I don't really get like that now. It's really, responsibility fills every second of my time. And whenever I do have free time, something comes up. I'll sit down in my chair and it's like, I've got nothing to do for the next 20 minutes. Oh, that's right. I have all these commitments that I could be addressing with this time. And reading your comment now, this sounds a lot like where we derive achievements from. One of the origin ideas for achievements. Because it's like, yeah, okay, you would search every inch of the Phantasy Star 4 map, right? Okay, well then why don't we make an achievement that says travel to every block on the Phantasy Star 4 map? And there you go, that's an achievement. Now we've found a way to incentivize you to do the stuff you would do. Just cause before. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I remember doing that, though. What I remember the most was playing River City Ransom, and I would max out the statistics in River City Ransom, and I would try and get a password that had max stats, and then once I had max stats, then I would try and get the password with the most money. And I would play, I had a little tape recorder that would play a mixtape that I made. I would play this mixtape and I would beat people up in River City Ransom. And that's what I remember the most. When you talk about like doing things in a game that have nothing to do with winning the game, that kind of thing was more common on the PC, I think. But we definitely did it on the consoles, for sure, without a doubt. All right, so you asked about the ticket. You wanted the specifics of the ticket. All right, a couple of things. I did buy a mount for safety. Second of all, the ticket was absolutely my fault. I was riding on a 4-lane highway, and a school bus pulled... I was on the rightmost lane, and a school bus coming the opposite direction pulled over on the farmost lane, and because there was a big fat median, I thought I could keep driving. But the sign went up, and school buses now have cameras mounted on them. So the mounted traffic camera on the side of the school bus took my picture, and I got a $250 ticket for running the stop sign that shows up on a school bus. So there you go. So that's what happened there. I got that little gem, and then my wife's car died like 2 days later, which cost us like $2,500. We had to replace her alternator, which was like $900, and then the battery as well, and then a couple other things. So I'm not gonna lie, financially it was a tough week, but that's okay. I have everything I need now. I don't need to buy a whole bunch of new games, and I don't need to buy a whole bunch of new gear. I don't need to buy a whole bunch of new music. I really have everything I need right now. We had enough money to cover those expenses. We still have our heads above water. It was a major hit, but you know what? We lived, and sometimes that's the most important part. Death Adder writes, after taking a couple weeks... Oh, hold on a second. Let me expand this so I can see the whole comment. There it is. Okay. After taking a couple weeks off, I did some hardcore Dead by Daylighting last night, and the latest DLC featuring the Plague, a.k.a. And Jane, a.k.a. the Sickness and the Thickness DLC, has been legit. The Plague is 100 times better than the Legion, fun to play against, and good perks. Jane's perks don't seem as good, but she is she is thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, so there's that. Glad to hear you're playing as the killer more. I play both sides about the same these days. The Huntress is cool, but I suck so bad at hitting people with the hatchet, and I have to use a dank controller. I don't even get to use a mouse. I will go on record and say that the Huntress cries in frustration over a pallet being dropped on her just might be the most adorable sound in the game. I agree with you about shopping for skins. I never cared about that kind of stuff before, but spending hard-earned iridescent shards on new hair, hat for a character is fantastic. What are some of your favorite skins? Even though I don't play as him, the clown's evil Santa costume is hard to top, in my opinion. Oh boy, you got a lot of stuff here. Let's start with the DLC. So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, they just released a new... there was 2 new DLC kits that came out like in the last month or so. One was Ash, which we talked about earlier, and before that, there was a new killer and a new killer and survivor that came out in the same pack, right? So the killer was the Plague, and she can throw up on you. I think I've talked about all of this before at this part by this time, but yeah. So and before she came out, before the Plague came out, the killer who throws up on people, there was a killer called the Legion. She came out last September. I was playing a couple weeks ago, and there was somebody whose name was Legion equals disconnect. The Legion was hated by everyone. I think the killers really dug Legion. I think because of her perks, but I don't know, not very well liked. She would typically, you got to be hit twice to be downed in Dead by Daylight. You get hit once, and then your guy's holding his stomach, and then you get hit again, and you're down. The Legion carried a knife, so she would cut you, and you'd be bleeding, and you'd have a blood meter that would drop and drop and drop very quickly. And you'd have to find safety and then mend yourself. Otherwise, you would go down in one hit. So if she would slash you, all she had to do was chase you enough and not lose you, and then you would go down. So that became very difficult. The Legion had problems, that's for sure. It doesn't seem to be as much of an issue now. I think when she first came out, everyone was using her, but now that we've got the Plague, and we got Ash, and we got other stuff, I think it's sort of evened out a little bit. But yeah, it's a good game. I still like Dead by Daylight very much. Very much. Since I discovered playing on Discord and playing with the rabble, I know you don't care much for it because you don't like the playing with the youngsters. But you can always become the guy. You can always just like hear the 12-year-old voice and be like, no, dude, you got to go. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean. But look, I'm in my 30s, and I'm just not trying to hang out with a 12-year-old. It's okay. You can do it. Just be honest. I don't advocate bullying kids, but I also don't think that you're bound to play with whoever wanders in. I think you can always just go to another room and be like, all right, best of luck, guys. I'm not getting down with this. These matches can take up to a half an hour, and I'm not doing it with you 3 people. It's just not going to happen. I don't know if I've had to do that yet. I have left the group because I didn't like the people I was playing with, but I haven't just walked into a group, heard the voices, and been like, nope, I'm out of here. But I wouldn't put it past myself. Alright, Death Adder, Mecha Menace, Desm101, thanks you guys so much for writing in. It's good to hear from you. Let's go now back to the... oh golly, where are we? Where are we? Okay. Bear with me. I'm trying to find my... Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Public comments. Recent comments on TigerClawTV.com, the YouTube channel, Tigerclaw TV. So let's see. Kaiser writes on the DIY tapes video, sweet collection. I got a few DIY tapes myself, and they are awesome to collect. I also love collecting Japanese DIY video game DVD and VHS stuff. Stuff like people releasing home recordings of them beating games flawlessly. I know we have YouTube for that stuff now, but I've been collecting some of this stuff before this kind of thing was big on YouTube. I may have to record a video of me showing off that collection. You know what, Kaiser? I would watch it, for sure. He also writes, here's hoping you make it onto Chiptunes Eagles Win Volume 8. Thanks, my man. I really appreciate it. And you know what? If I don't make it, that's okay, but I feel like I've got to have a goal. I got to have a goal to push this chiptune thing, to push it further. I think if I try for this and I create music that's worthwhile to listen to and I don't make it, I think that's okay. I'll still have come out ahead. Light Studios writes, since last MagFest was so good, will you take back saying that it is your last one? And I text replied to him, but definitely I'm going to be going this coming year for sure, because I know my son wants to go again. So I'm going to go to take him, if for no other reason. And also, I've got to see the chiptune lineup. I've got to see it. I've got to see it. It was so huge for me last year. It was huge. So yeah, I'll definitely be there for that. And if you make it down, we can jam. Let's see. And then we go into the stuff I got on last week's podcast. So I think that's it. I think that is it. That's all the all of the comments. Listen, I'm beyond behind schedule right now. Beyond behind schedule. So my apologies for this sort of sloppy ending. Just know that whatever you're facing when you're done listening to this, I appreciate the time you spent here. And I want you to do well. I really do. I want you to come back next week, next Monday when TCR comes out, and be like, yeah, I remember listening to that. And then after that, everything went okay. That's, in a perfect world, that's what I would like. I know it doesn't always work out that way. Life has a habit of throwing us curveballs that we don't expect. $250 tickets, $2,500 car repairs, or maybe both in the same week. Sometimes they happen. But you know what? Let's ball our fists up and just knock it right down. Because once we get through it on the other side, I think that's the only way we can really grow as human beings. So with that, I'll see you guys next week.